Next question up, reading the question sentence, we read that it says, hey, if there are 25 cups of white paint, how many cups of black paint are there? So remember, with any question, we want to start with the question sentence and we see what it is that we're given and the relationships that we have. I noticed the relationship here in the beginning is that we have 25 cups of white paint, but we want to know how many cups of black paint. So that's a comparison. That's a relationship. If we have 25 cups of white paint, that is going to be related to some unknown number of cups of black paint. But the relationship is set. White to black here, and when we take a look at the first sentence, we see it reads, in a paint mixing project, the ratio of cups of white paint to cups of black paint is 5 to 8. So the only thing we really need to be careful of here is the order, because the mistake that we could potentially make is putting the 5 over here, because the 5 represents white. Remember, the order that it's written, it matters. So we see that the first one that we're being told is white, so that'll be 5. So that means we need to go ahead and push that over here. Then on the other side, we want to compare to the cups of black paint. And what we notice is that right over here, the second value is 8. The second term is black. So yeah, that's going to be 8 right over here. So from here, it's pretty rudimentary. We're going to set up our proportion, cross multiply and divide, and we're done. So we'll go ahead and just use B for cups of black paint. So we'll compare 25 to B, 5 to 8, just like that. And then 5 to 8. And then notice a pretty convenient comparison here where I can multiply by 5 right to left, and I'm done. 8 times 5, that gives me 40. So the number of cups of black paint comes down to 40. There we go, and we are good. And let's get going on this next one. So starting off here, first thing we'll do is we'll read that question sentence. So technically it starts over here, but I'm going to start reading right here. The who, what, when, where, how many, which of the following, that's where the question statement actually starts. So here it says, how many medals were awarded in total? Okay, so right there, I'm going to be very specific. I'm going to make sure I write down that I want the total number of medals. Right there equals blank. That's my goal. That's what I want. Now, remember, if you have information given to you in that same sentence, it's very, very likely that it's related to solving the problem. So I see here that it says, if 18 silver medals were given out, how many medals were awarded in total? Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to say silver equals 18. And then we're looking for the total. And if we take a look at the first sentence, we see that it says bronze and silver medals are awarded are in a 2 to 3 ratio. Be very careful. Remember that we're looking for total, and it says bronze and silver medals awarded are in a 2 to 3 ratio. So when I write that down, be very careful. I see that my ratios right over here, bronze was first, so that represents 2. Silver was listed second, so the 3 represents silver. So when I write down these values, I'm going to make sure that I write it consistently. Silver equals 3 in terms of the ratio, in terms of the comparison. But this is where the mistake that most people will make comes into play. Most people will really try to just make it work. Make the numbers that you have work in some way, shape, or form. And you might make this mistake writing bronze over here. And then, boom, bronze equals 2. Here's the problem with that. The problem with this is that if you believe that this is your proportion, it's wrong. Because sure, we have silver first, but the comparisons aren't the same here. We're doing silver to total, silver to bronze. That's a problem, a very big problem, because if you assume that this will work, you're not getting the total number of medals. You're actually getting bronze. So we have to be careful there, everybody. A much better way to see this or represent this is if we just kind of move this over, nudge this over, and we have a choice to make. We can say that we're trying to find the bronze right over here and just focus on this. Let me use a different color. We can just focus on this for our proportion. And everybody, you tell me, if I were to work on this in this way and get this bronze value right over there, what am I supposed to do with that number once I get it? What am I supposed to do with it? Yeah, once we get bronze, to get total, we're just going to add things up. That's it. We're just going to add things up. Silver plus bronze will give you that total. But here's the thing about this one. Remember that with proportions, as long as you compare the same things in the same way, you're good. So let me show you what that looks like. Let me give you a real easy time. Everyone, if we want to find the total, let's go ahead and compare it to the total down here. And let me show you how to do that. It's going to be actually very straightforward because everyone, just like you said, to get a total, we're just going to add. So check it out. Silver is 3, bronze is 2. That means my total here is 5. And what I'm going to focus on is comparing silver to total, silver to total. I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to ignore that. I'm just going to compare silver to total, and when I do this, watch. I'll put a T for total, and so I'll have silver up top, total on the bottom. Then we're going to write 18 over total equals 3 over 5. Again, silver over total. So now that we're here, we're good to go. We can cross multiply and divide if we wanted to. Sure, we can also compare the same things in the same way and save ourselves some time, because I did notice that going from 3 to 18, that's times 6. And so 5 times 6, that's going to give us 30. And that is actually the answer. But I can go ahead and cross multiply here if you'd like me to. So we can do t times 3, 3t. And then we can do 18 times 5, which will be 90. And if you don't believe me, no worries, I got you. 18 times 5, 8 times 5 is 40. Carry the 4. 1 times 5 is 5. Carry the 4 is 9. So then we have 3t equals 90. And from there, we can divide both sides by 3. And we still get that same correct answer, t equals 30. Either way, we're still good, but that gives us the true total. If you would have gotten D, 12, that means that you ended up getting bronze and forgot to add the silver and bronze together. So it's really all about paying attention to what the problem is asking you for. But nonetheless, the answer is C, 30. And let's go ahead and give this next one a shot here. So the question sentence, it's going to go ahead and read, which of the following is the ratio representing apples to oranges? Okay, sounds good. So this is a classic question where we just want to write the ratio in simplest form. So I want to make sure I have apples as the first value and it's compared to oranges. And I see that over here, you have 18 apples, 42 oranges. And so what I'll do very quickly is just write 18 over here, 42 under oranges, and from here, all we have to do is simplify. So to simplify, we can treat it like a fraction, 18 over 42, or you can just ask yourself the same question. What number can I divide out of both 18 and 42? And what's the biggest number? We want to think about that biggest value. And if you're saying 6, absolutely correct. Absolutely. We'll divide out the 6 on the left and the right. Once we do that, we're going to have 3 to 7. So again, the ratio of 18 to 42 is equivalent or the same as a ratio of 3 to 7, which is answer choice C.